Okay, hi everybody. Wow. Thank you for being here on this nice warm summer evening. I am Jen Ho, a private citizen living in Marquette, making good trouble wherever I can. We're going to talk about that today. But first, we have special guests who have traveled up and across. Folks from the Sioux and from Grand Rapids are here to talk to us about the new ballot initiative campaigns. So it is my pleasure to introduce Calvin Carter, Calvin with a K, Carter with a C, who is in the Sioux and is part of a group called Up North Advocacy that's been doing a lot of education and justice work over and bringing together school districts across the rural parts of the Eastern UP. And they are also part of the big 11 group coalition around some of these ballot initiatives. So take it away, Calvin.
Hello. It's fancy. Usually I have to hold the microphone, and I'm not good at that. All right, so yeah, my name is Calvin. I'm the director of Up North Advocacy. I live in Sault Ste. Marie, have for the last 20 or so years. I'm a dad and director of Up North Advocacy. I'm originally from Onaway, Michigan, northern Lower Peninsula. Up North Advocacy services mostly the eastern Upper Peninsula and the northern Lower Peninsula. I'm joined by Dave Markham. He's our IT guy and one of our organizers in Sault Ste. Marie, and Sarah Reinfelder. She lives down in Lansing, not Lansing, but Lansing. Okay, so I just want to kick off real quick. We are part of a coalition called Michigan for the Many, and we're working on a couple of ballot initiatives. But we wrote this piece together to kind of frame where we're coming from, sort of the problems that we see across Michigan, and a vision for the future. So I'm gonna read this piece to you guys, and what I want you to do is, while I'm speaking, listen to the words and try to think about how what I'm saying shows up in your lives and in your community. And then we'll have a real quick back and forth about it, and then I'll launch into the initiative stuff. Okay, so Northern Michigan used to be a place where anyone could make a life for themselves if they worked hard. Our ore and lumber built this country. Our state was the arsenal of democracy, and together we built the middle class. Now we're told there's no money for our health care, for food assistance, or our schools. But there always seems to be money for corporate subsidies or millionaire and billionaire tax giveaways. Seems like the only way for a young person to find an opportunity is to leave. Companies are still making money there, but the jobs don't pay what they used to, and there are a lot fewer of them. Think about the nursing home, the trailer park, the child care facility down the road from you. Some private equity firm probably owns it. The people caring for our kids in their first days and our grandparents in their final ones, they earn $14 or $15 an hour at best, sometimes even less. They have no voice, they get no respect, and meanwhile the profits are headed straight into a Wall Street portfolio. So what's really broken here? Are we just not working hard enough? Did our ancestors work a little harder than what we're doing right now? I don't think so. Worker productivity's up, and we're some of the hardest working people I've ever met. Maybe it's the downstaters, or the immigrants, or people who don't look, love, live like us. I don't think so. Those people I know, they're struggling just as hard as I am, if not more. What I really see here is a system that's broken, not a people. It's a system that rewards greed and punishes everyone else. A system where the rich write the rules and working class folks like you and I pay the price. A wealthy few, people like Betsy DeVos in Grand Rapids or Dan Gilbert in Detroit, they're doing really well in Michigan. They benefit from our schools, our roads, our water, our timber, and our labor. But rather than doing right by us, they're getting rich off our backs, paying poverty wages, polluting our air and water, and pitting us against one another. They're buying politicians so they can get out of paying their fair share, while our hospitals, parks, schools, and roads fall further into disrepair. So, what would happen if we made our economy and our democracy work for the many and not the few? Can you imagine what our communities would look like if they had all the resources that we need? If every family no matter their race, income, or geographic location, had all the resources that they deserve. We see a state where no one goes bankrupt because they're sick, where seniors aren't having to choose between prescription drugs and keeping their teeth on. We see a state where our teachers and our school leaders have what they need to prepare our young people to thrive and stay here. We see a state where working class people can find a home and a place where they were raised. That's why organizations like Up North Advocacy, but several more across the state, and lots of working class folks like you guys in this room are coming together under the banner of Michigan for the Many. We feel like we've waited long enough. So we're not begging politicians to do something for us. We're taking a stand, we're linking arms, and we're going to do it ourselves. We have to make childcare, healthcare, and housing affordable for everyone, and we can do that. We have to make sure that our schools are preparing our kids for a future economy of tomorrow, and we can do that. We have to get money out of politics, and we can do that. And we have to raise wages for everyday people and guarantee them paid sick and family leave. And we can do that. So what I'm going to talk about tonight isn't like the horse race, politics as usual. This is people-powered and community-rooted and Michigan-grown. Because we believe that true power does not trickle down, it rises up. So, how do you guys feel about that? All right, so I have a few questions, and I don't have a microphone to pass around, so I'm not quite sure how this is going to work. Oh, Graham, my man. Sweet.
Black's down.
So, I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on this, but I want this to be a little bit of a two-way conversation here. So, I want someone to raise their hand and answer this question. Do you see inequality in your life? And if so, how does it show up? I'm going to talk a little bit about Sault Ste. Marie. So, my town is filled with empty buildings downtown. Those are buildings that should be filled with my neighbors purchasing goods and services from my other neighbors who probably own those stores. There should be money staying in my community. Instead, what I have in Sault Ste. Marie is a bunch of big box stores up the business spur that rake in record profits every year. That's inequality at play in Sault Ste. Marie. So I'd like to hear from somebody here how inequality shows up in Marquette. I'll let Jen pick people.
So Calvin, whoa, all right.
Hey, buddy.
I'm a retired teacher from Wynn, and what I notice is that in Marquette schools, when they ask for a millage, it's usually passed. When they need help with kids, because one of the same many years as a teacher, works with special needs kids, they get help. While in Gwynn, for a long time, we had to really scrounge to get resources. And then to get help we needed, until we got those buying bucks, it was really hard to get that help. And we're not that far down the road. You go to the airport, you go a little farther, and there's the middle high. And I know that Marquette is not sitting pretty. It's not like they're out of cash. But in Gwynn, they tried to get the same initiative passed to centralize the schools so that they can reduce costs. Because some of the schools, they were built in the 50s. And to keep those babies humming, you had to sink a lot of money into infrastructure of the schools. And if you have to do that with several buildings, you just do one big building. That's the plan, and that initiative hasn't passed. So that's one discrepancy or inequality that I noticed, is just between Marquette and Gwynn schools. And again, acknowledging that Marquette is not like loaded with cash, because I know from talking to teachers in Marquette. But our rural schools suffer.
So if I can dig in just a little bit more about that. So what do you think might cause a person to vote against funding their own school?
When I talk to people who are, that's my wife, she won't let me talk. When I talk to people about that millage, what I hear is Gwynn mismanaged money in the past. And when I talk to people there was an incident where somebody misplaced a decimal point and, you know, things got really tight. There's also that, and this isn't said verbatim, but it's an impression that I get, is that I'm not gonna benefit. I don't have kids in the school, and, or, you know, they just don't feel like they're gonna derive a benefit from paying that extra money. And I think another factor has been, and again, this is me reading between the lines, that we had a superintendent that I noticed when the soup left, all of a sudden I started hearing all these bad stories about him. And I didn't think a lot of the guy in the first place, but, you know, from my few interactions. But then I started hearing all these stories when he left. So I got to better know the new soup. And I thought, whoa, yeah, she's really got her heart in this. And I wonder if that rippled out to the community. So that's some of the insights, but the other insight is just that.
Okay, you have to.
If I could dig in, I think what we would find is that there are interests that are talking to people and getting them to distrust taxes. And I think that's a lot of what's happening here. But we can have a conversation over
answer that?
there.
I'm from Bloom.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I don't have any children right now in the schools, but I do have 4 grandchildren. And the millage issue, I can tell you from my personal experience is, last year, we are retired and we live on a fixed income. Last year, our taxes went up $500 because of the special needs, the market countywide. So our taxes went up $500 last year. If this millage would have passed, because it's a huge millage, our taxes would have gone up another $500 this year. That is not to say that I don't, of course I want improvements in our schools. The roofs are leaking, the administration was way overbalanced, we put out way too much money in administrative costs. I also have, all of my grandchildren are very sports, you know, they're very into sports. Some of the things that they want to improve on is another gym, and the schools are old, and we're running 3 of them. All 4 of my grandchildren go to 3 different schools. You know, one is bused out to KI, one is bused to Gilbert, and the other 2 walk to the high school, which is a high school, middle school. So the taxes have a lot to do with it. And also, we are more of a retirement community than we are young people, except for the base. You know, the base is bringing in more, you know, more people, but they are not taxpayers. You know, they are renters. And of course, their rent goes up when the taxes go up because they have to, whatever. And I don't mean to drag this on, but there's so many different sides to the story.
You know, we were having a similar conversation with Sault Ste. Marie around our schools too, yeah. And I think a little bit of what's at play here is that regular folks like us, the only taxes that we can vote on directly are those local taxes, right? And in a country where people, I think, are seeing their taxes pay for things they don't agree on, maybe like foreign wars or billionaire tax breaks, we're feeling overtaxed and underrepresented, and that comes out in our local elections. How I'm seeing things. One more on this question, and then we gotta move on.
Okay, I don't think we're taking it, but I'm not going to talk specifically about
I might cut.
I think it's really important for people to understand that Midwestern schools are funded some of the best in the nation. That includes Michigan, that includes Grid, and that includes Marquette. That is a fact. Now, the unfortunate thing is that the burden comes down to individuals in their small towns to take on that. And some communities are simply poorer than others. I come from Ralph. So, I come from one of the poorest school districts. When the mines left, everything essentially shut down. When those mining dollars left, we had nothing. There is a problem with burdening senior citizens, poor people. Like you said, renters aren't paying this. There's a problem with how we are funding the schools. Even though we are funding the schools at a better rate than any school in Texas, Alabama, Georgia, Arizona, about the only thing you can get better is New York. New York funds their schools better, and that is a fact. So, what you're asking for here in this petition is for another opportunity to fund schools differently.
Yep, that's like his petition. I'll get into that here in a minute. Trying to frame it, but yes, you beat me to the punch there. Yeah, yeah. So I just have no. That's wonderful. So that's a bit of the inequality piece, and I think a lot of these inequalities aren't there by accident. I happen to think we have intelligent people in charge, and a lot of these things, it's the way it's supposed to work for them, right? So I want to talk a little bit about money in politics, because one of the other initiatives that we're fronting here is to help get money out of politics. So I'd kind of, again, posit the question to the room. Have you seen money in politics? How, and what do you think the result was? How has money affected politics in your life?
I'm going to start by saying I'm going to out myself as probably the youngest person in the room at 24. One thing that I'm seeing a lot of is the rental markets being eaten up by big corporate interests. AV rentals and Marquette rentals have pretty much eaten up the entire county, other than a few mom and pops that are holding on, and pretty much the only people that are keeping rent reasonable. I know a family that lives as roommates with a second family in a 2-bedroom apartment, because even though there's enough housing, they're extracting as much money as possible, and then we're having problems with passing initiatives to keep housing prices low because these big corporate interests keep putting their foot in it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it benefits them to have higher prices, maybe not the people. Anybody else want to share about how they've seen money affect politics? If not, I think we can all think of, especially on the
Things don't
national level.
get voted on in Lansing unless you've made a donation.
How would you know that, Jen? Yes, you could probably go on and on. But this is a problem, right? So especially large companies that have government contracts or are regulated by the government, especially those utilities that we're dependent on for life. Again, that's another thing we can't vote on. But they go to Lansing and they lobby and they get the laws made that benefit them and not necessarily regular people. Okay, so let me cut to the chase here. Michigan for the Many is here representing 2 ballot petitions, and then we're also going to hear from Joe to talk about another one. So the first that I want to talk about right now is the Invest in My Kids. That petition does 2 things. For one, yes, it does provide another mechanism where I need to stop speaking with my hands, especially when the camera's right back, where we can fund our schools, and it's not all on local people, right? And it does, the second thing is that it helps create a little bit more equity in taxation. It does that by implementing a 5% surcharge on individuals making over $500,000 a year or couples making over $1 million a year. It does not put that 5% on their first 500,000 or their first million. It's every dollar after that. And that's important because as it works, we have a flat tax in Michigan, yes. Theoretically, it should take the same percentage out of everyone's paychecks, tax-wise. But especially when you consider things like sales tax, things that we purchase, that millionaires and billionaires purchase, it's maybe a crude example, I use toilet paper. They don't use any more toilet paper than you and I use. But a roll of toilet paper takes up more of my family's budget than it would for them, right? So when you consider sales tax and all the others, the wealthiest people in Michigan end up paying the same amount or even less than working folks in taxes. So this kind of helps even that out. And then the money raised from that goes to the state education fund and that school aid fund, rather. And that goes towards retaining teachers, facility upgrades, so on and so forth. So it kind of does a two-bird, one-stone kind of situation. And, you know, facilities report just came out across the state of Michigan. It's going to take like $23 billion to get our schools up to snuff. We all know, especially up here, they're crumbling. And what you might not know is that schools up here are actually more expensive to repair than downstate schools. Not that it's any sort of a competition, but it's the reality. You know, think prices are higher up here for labor and materials. So that's an important one. Is there any quick questions about that? Okay. Tax rich people fund schools. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, the question was about allocation. And yeah, especially when we're talking about per pupil allocation, populations like the UP where we're seeing loss of students, that definitely affects that. I'm not an expert in how things are allocated right now. This ballot initiative doesn't affect however funds are allocated out of that fund. It's just about putting money into that fund. So I can't really answer that exactly, but it doesn't change whatever mechanism's in place right now. Maybe that's a future ballot petition.
Well, and just real quick, in '23, we changed how the allocations happen and gave an extra amount of money to schools that had lost population because we had teachers in charge of the budget for the education and they knew that this was happening. But then the budget that we don't have right now, but is in front of us because we still don't have a state budget either in Michigan, they want to take that away and put it back all into per pupil, which will hurt us. So it can go back and forth according to the legislature, is the answer.
Mm-hmm. That's a good point about what's going on right now in Lansing. We still don't have a budget. Schools still can't budget for themselves. And we have a federal government that is withholding funds that should be coming to our schools here. So anything that we can grow here in Michigan to fund our schools, the better. Yeah, one more question, then I'm going to have to move on to the next one. But
how does it work if people have multiple homes? So if they have a home here,
They have a home here and they have a home in Florida, and they claim the Florida home as their primary.
primary residence.
How does that, you know, or some other place, whatever, you know.
Well, the ballot initiative is just about income.
Right.
So the property taxes are your regular, that's not being changed or addressed.
Right, it's
in the ballot
income
initiative.
only. And, you know, like the small businesses are a little worried. It's their personal income. It's not the income of the business. You know, it's what they bring home. So, yeah. That's a good question, though. I do want to, because of time, talk about the second ballot initiative we're talking about here. And that is the money out of politics one. It's pretty simple. So we have a couple of big players that drop a ton of money into campaigns. So there are corporations that are regulated utilities and corporations that get government contracts, right? So the examples of regulated utilities are like DTE and consumers. Again, going back before how I was saying, like we can't just turn our electricity off and show them, you know, we can't really vote with our wallet that way. We're kind of beholden, right? So we sort of have to pay what they charge. And they continue to influence our politicians, and there's no relief. There's very little regulation on them. And then the contract example, Blue Cross, right? We pay exorbitant rates for health insurance and health care. And again, it's not an accident. That's on purpose. They're trying to milk us for everything that they can. And they do that through affecting our politicians and what they do in Lansing. So pretty simple there. They just don't allow campaign contributions. And a lot of times, folks, and Jen, you know this, they create 501c3s or 501c4s. That's affected as well. Any nonprofit connected to that candidate or that politician, it's off limits anymore. These corporations can no longer give them millions of dollars in lobbying. Any questions?
How would that, have we thought through the potential impact on that? Like if we are stopping corporations from giving to campaigns, what is the impact then on people that have amassed vast personal fortunes than being able to out-campaign other people? Like, I'm all for it, but I just want to think through, like, the further ramifications. Like,
Sure.
if, you know, just an average person on the street is not able to get any financing from any corporations at all, like, how are they going to compete against someone who is either rich themselves or has rich people in their back pocket?
Sure. And rich people can run for office and control everything right now as it is, right? This isn't necessarily a silver bullet, but it does make a difference. Again, just like the school finance one, maybe there's another ballot petition here in the future to make even more change. But we believe this is a really good start.
And just to be clear, I don't know that it's any corporation, it's specifically those two types of corporations.
Yep. Regulated utilities and those that get contracts.
Exactly, so there will still be other contributions there.
Yeah, good point, Sarah.
And I can also explain how you can wash money through a certain kind of organization and not another. So there's because we still live under Citizen United, the Supreme Court case, the U.S. Supreme Court case. So as Calvin said, we're going to chip away at a piece of it, which would help. But until we get a new Supreme Court in Citizen United, there's unlimited money. But also, we're going to have a breakout group with Calvin, so you can ask more questions because we're looking getting a little quite close on time.
Yeah, we need
So I
to move
wanted
through.
to make that space, make sure everyone understands. There will be, when we have breakouts, you can have just to talk about this stuff.
Yep, and I want to give a few minutes here to Joe Spalding, the campaign director for Rank My Vote. He's going to talk to us about ranked choice voting. And then I'm going to come back really quickly and talk about our plan to win these ballot initiatives. All right, Joe, thanks.
Thank you, Calvin. Thank you, Jen. Thanks, Yoopers Unite. It's great to be back in Marquette. I am Joe Spalding. I am campaign director for Rank My Vote. We are the ballot initiative petition to bring ranked choice voting into Michigan. Right now, our politicians have this secret that they know. They know that if a third person runs in a race, they only have to talk to 33% of the voters because it takes 34% of the voters to win in a race with three candidates. There's a fourth candidate, they only need to win 25% of the vote. And this is very real. It's called the spoiler effect. Some of us are familiar at different levels about what this is. The way that we address this is through ranked choice voting. It's a very simple change in the way we administer elections. Australia's been doing voting this way for over 100 years. Instead of putting one dot next to one name on a ballot, we rank the candidates in order of preference, and it looks a little bit like this right here. It's super, super simple. One dot next to one name in each column. If you're third place, if there's three candidates running, your first place candidate does not win, You know that they don't have a high chance of winning, but you really, really believe in the things that they are bringing to the table. You can vote for them, and you don't have to worry about your vote being wasted. If they're the lowest candidate of the three, if they have the fewest amount of votes, instead of counting for them, your vote goes to your second place candidate. So it's like an instant runoff. And in fact, they do call it instant runoff in some places. So normally in a runoff election, you have two candidates that are fairly close, don't get 50%, and they do a full-on election all over again. Ranked choice voting is a way to make it so instead of paying for the entirety of a runoff, we're able to have that preemptively put on the ballot, and that saves the entire, like, so a runoff cost, and we're talking about cost of administering these things, a runoff election costs as much as moving from what we have now into ranked choice voting. So why would we want to do this? Besides spoiler effect, we have a serious problem, and I hate to admit this, but I have been a part of this as a political operative in the past, of political operatives going straight into negative politics. The first instinct is to kneecap your opposition. Why is that? It's because getting somebody to vote against the other guy is as effective at getting your guy elected as getting them to vote for your guy. It really is. Because you only need to get to those 33% if there are three candidates running. Instead, what ranked choice voting does is it makes it so the candidates need to have 50% or more support from the voters in order to make it to that office. What does that mean? That means that they have to gain your first choice, they have to gain your second choice, and they have to gain your third choice if they can. It's no longer cost beneficial for them to go negative early and go negative often. If they're saying that your first choice candidate is really, really bad and they're a terrible person, you're not going to vote for them as your second choice. And we've seen this in New York City very recently, right? We've seen this ranked choice voting election in New York City. And whether or not you agree with Mandami being the candidate that won that primary, the reality is that he reflects New York City and who they are as a population really, really well. What are the other jurisdictions that we see ranked choice voting in? 2 states, Maine and Alaska. They happen to be 2 of the most independent states in the country. Ranked choice voting makes it so those candidates that end up getting elected reflect the population of Maine and they reflect the population of Alaska. It does the thing that democracy is supposed to bring to us. It makes it so our candidates who end up getting elected, who get to act for us on our behalf in our state legislature, in Lansing and in Washington, D.C., because I'm going to get to that in just a second about who this affects. But it makes them be accountable to the voters in a very, very true way. How many of you all signed the petition or voted for the petition that ended gerrymandering in Michigan? God bless all of you. Holy God. But yes. So back in 2017, I got a call from a political science professor asking me if I had heard what Katie Fahey was doing on Facebook. Katie and I sat next to each other in public policy class at Aquinas College in Grand Rapids. And I said, absolutely, it's really, really cool. What can I do to help? They asked me to come on board because they knew that I had political experience at the time to write their ballot initiative petition. Now I'm kind of in the same place for ranked choice voting, for Rank My Vote. And we are out here, we are in the field, we have our petitions printed, we are collecting ink on paper. We need 611,231 signatures in order to make this thing, make sure it hits the ballot and can get passed when it's done. And we are ready to go. One of the things that has blown my mind about this, I have been working in the pro-democracy space for over a decade, and the majority of the folks that help us out in the pro-democracy space are between 45 and 65 years old, and the majority of them are women. That's not, and thank God for all of you, right? Thank you, thank you, thank you. That's not what we're seeing signing up to circulate our petition with Rank My Vote, right? We are seeing young people sign up in droves. I've seen so many young men, and I almost cry every time this happens, walk up to me and say, good God, we need this. Well, why is that? Well, if you think about somebody who's only voted in presidential elections for the last 3 elections, half of their choices that were viable were Donald Trump. They were Donald Trump. The other half were moderate Democrats. And you might be a moderate Democrat yourself, But even if you are, you understand that young people sometimes search for something more progressive for their future. And they want the option to be able to vote for somebody progressive. That's what's happening. Some of them have different ideas, but like the underlying principle of what these young folks want is more choice. And at its core, what we're offering at Rank My Vote is more choice and more voice for voters, and we're offering the chance for the first time, for the first real time, to vote for our hopes instead of our fears. And that is something that is so powerful, and it's bringing Michigan together.
I like that, Joe.
Yeah, so that's Pat's line. My executive director is a brilliant guy. He's a volunteer. Our executive director, 100% volunteer, first time in politics. Hopes not fears is his mantra, and I love him for it. I have petitions back there if anybody wants to sign. I'll be sitting over there when talking the breakout, but I can answer a couple questions really quickly. I know we're pinched. That's one of our volunteers. I'm sorry, forgetting name. Zeke, that's right. Oh my God, you are one of our captains. Thank you so much. I've got petitions for you, and I've got some posters. Clap for Zeke. Yeah.
Speaking of choices, do you have to rank every candidate?
Absolutely not. So this is the joke that I normally tell in a church situation. We are in a church, right? Okay. So the joke is, I have no idea if Jesus had to rank his apostles in order of preference. I have no idea who he would rank first, second, or third. But good God, do I know who he would leave blank. So yes, if you leave something blank, you have no chance of your vote going in that direction. And that's actually not real. Jesus would forgive, right?
All right. Thanks. We're
I
going to
have one quick thing for him. Unranked choice voting.
Joe.
Whoa, got another question.
I'm a fan, but I want to ask the question, be devil's advocate. What are the negatives that are going to be put out there that we can fight back on?
How many of you voted for Prop 3 or signed the Prop 3 petition 2 years ago to bring reproductive freedom to Michigan? Guarantee that, right? Well, thank you all for that, and God bless you. What did the opposition say about that? What was the big meme? What was the banner that they all put up all the time?
It's too
Confusing. It's too extreme.
Oh my God.
It's the same thing. It's an old playbook. That's what they've got, and that's how you know they've got nothing. Yeah, and I'm not trying to blow away your question, but like that's literally what they're coming out with. They also try to say that there's a equity issue in terms of like how the votes end up, but like the reality is that ranked choice voting brings a more diverse candidate pool. Like we know this for a fact based on studies. Like you get more diverse candidates, and that's not just demographic diversity, that's also ideological diversity. But again, the winners end up better reflecting the population that is voting for them. So does that answer your question enough? Oh, okay.
Hey, Jen, can I have one more minute?
Yeah.
Just 1 minute.
Oh, yes. Yeah, that was going to wrap up.
All right, so getting money out of politics, good thing. Ranked choice voting, good thing. Funding our schools, good thing. Here's the deal, though. It requires people power. Zeke over here, my man Zeke, gathering signatures, right? We need an army of signature gatherers all across Michigan. A lot of these need between 600,000 and 700,000 signatures gathered to see them on the ballot next year.
I just have a question.
Yeah.
My understanding is that the count for signatures gathered after all the assessment is around 450,000.
Correct.
So you're going for 600,000 in case
Yes, ma'am.
you have.
Yep.
Okay.
That's how it works, because there's opposition, and there's rules and all these things, and invariably signatures will be thrown out. We want to overshoot. And also, hey, if you gather way more signatures than you need, that's a little bit of show of how popular the movement is, and that'll help you the next year when and if these things get to the ballot. So we need signature gatherers. We love people signing, but what we really need are people that are helping other people sign. So folks like Zeke, If you can gather signatures just to fill one sheet, that's 10 signatures. Awesome. You do 2. Maybe you go to a festival and gather signatures. Maybe you knock doors, or you just take one home and have your family sign it. We need them all. So we encourage you to sign up to do that. Up North Advocacy for those 2 that invest in my kids and in my out of politics. We are the anchor organization for that up here in the UP. Ranked choice voting, they have their own apparatus. But sign up, we'll get you connected to both. There's a training. You follow the QR code on one of those sheets that you're getting right now, and I'll take you some training. But otherwise, get at me. Jen knows how to get to me. We can get you trained up. We can get ballots in your hand. For R2, there's ranked choice voting right now. They have theirs printed and approved. It's ready to go. Sign that sucker and get all your friends to sign it too. The other 2, we hope to have them approved by next month. So that's my ask. Please sign up and help us do this. And yes, we'll be over there during the breakouts. Thanks so much.
Alright. Coming up, while the food trouble folks are coming up, Tina has a report on food pantry, and then let's have July 17th come up.
Hi, everybody. I want to mention that the Yoda on the hot coffee or the hot water station is collecting donations for Yoopers Unite. The reports, the money that was raised between our last meeting and Making Good Trouble event, we took in $329, which bought 434 pounds of food, which was given to the Republic St. Vincent de Paul. And as of July 20th, Yoopers Unite with Indivisible in conjunction have donated 2,647 pounds of food and household items since the beginning of April to our local pantries. We continue to collect things weekly here. If you have a business or an organization that would like to partner with us and collect there, we are willing to do pickups at those locations. Just let us know. Next couple of weeks, we would like to focus on the local senior centers. They have programming that goes into the seniors' home, low-income housing people, and helps them do household chores and tasks, and they need cleaning supplies to do that, as well as people. But we would like to focus our collection efforts on items like cleaning supplies, laundry supplies, air freshener, disinfectant soap. There is a little list on the back of your agenda. And while I have the microphone, I just want to say that tomorrow from 11 to 12:30, I will be hosting a support group meeting for trans allies at Peter White Public Library.
Thank you. So we're going to do a quick recap of Good Trouble Lives On. And thanks to everybody who participated, whether you were at one of the stand-up protests and or at the picnic and the rally. We feel great about the number who were in attendance at both. We would have wished for a little more than the 75 or so that we got up on head count at the picnic and then the rally. So the speakers who we had were dynamic. How many were there? And heard right till the end of, as we kept putting on more layers, the evening got cooler and cooler. And it was fantastic. And all of the speakers had some really good feedback for us, and it would be wonderful to have them again. I have the good news that Lauren, who is the NMU student, is still will be in Marquette for another 2 years and would like to participate with us again. So I think it's just great that we've got the whole range of the NMU students to this Carmen here. Carmen, who the most senior speaker and participant with us. So, it was great turnout, good feedback, positive feedback. Oh, and is Sally in here? Sally Sanderson Howe, our newest celebrity. I want to give her a round of applause. She was our MC. She was also the MC, the chanter, and all things to fire us up for the 4th of July parade. And she has found her calling. She's fantastic. Christy has some updates about stand-up protest members.
Hi, I was tasked to help coordinate the 6 different locations that we did protests for Good Trouble Lives On. And that was the first time we tried to do 6 locations at once. And that was a fun challenge. So 6 of them, or 3 of them, were overpasses around Marquette, and the other 3 were along the roadways. So as I set up a web forum, we had 109 respondents on that web forum. We also had minimum numbers at every location. For Nagami, a minimum, thinking that this is a good showing, a good number of people to have at these spots. So Nagami at Miners Park along the highway, we figured a minimum of 25, we had 63. These are, if these numbers are inaccurate, please let me know and we'll update them. For Ishpeming, a minimum of 25, we had 44. For the Iron Ore Heritage Trail overpass near Holiday Inn, we had 35 people, and on the overpass, we assumed 5 people would be able to get enough done with big signs. US 41 South, along near the Welcome Center log cabin, but it ended up splitting that group into 2 groups. We had about 25 people there. That's the number I was given. McCullen Overpass, we hoped to get 5, we had 15. And Altamont Street, we hoped to get 5, we had 30. So the total number of protesters, these are people that didn't necessarily sign up but showed up, was 211. So I feel it's very much a success. We were able to do it. We were able to show our faces across Marquette County. We're not just a Marquette group. So I feel very good about that, and I appreciate everyone's help and everyone's participation. Thank you.
Go ahead. Is there Okay. So we will have at one of the breakout tables a conversation about the pop-up protests going forward. So it will help us as we're making some decisions. Could I just see a show of hands? How many would be interested? We've had last week we called those stand-up protests to differentiate from pop-up protests. We are hoping to stay with that consistent time of 4 to 5:30. We've had one maybe on a Tuesday, we've had some on Wednesdays, and then it was last week Thursday. A show of hands, how many would be in favor of a Tuesday, not a Wednesday, for a pop-up protest where we'd be at a location to be determined? And thank you. And how many would be in favor of a Wednesday? Okay. How many are not going to come at all? That's small.
Those are work hours for you.
That 4 to 5:30, we understand, yeah. And we talked about that, and we're looking at what is considered rush hour. So, that was kind of a toss-up as to Tuesday or Wednesday. So.
You can ask if it doesn't really matter.
Oh, how many? Well, it would not matter. Oh, there's a thank you, Paula. Thank you. Okay, good to know. One more quick question. Frequency. We have wondered, should we try to continue with the stand-up protests, pop-up protests, 1 time a week, or do alternate weeks? And we understand, especially those who have day jobs, it's a challenge. So we would appreciate your input, and I'll have to see a show of hands, but if you've got some thoughts, if you could give us some input, join us at the breakout table. And a reminder that we must have a safety team member at each location, whether we're doing, whatever, simultaneous or different fishermen, Donnie, my cat, we must have a safety team member. So we really, we're asking a lot of those folks. There are 30 on the list, but jobs and other life complicates things. Jeannie, you've got a thought or a question?
Could you do an online survey?
Somebody could, that would probably not be me. But a good idea.
Paul do an online survey?
Paul, you know what, right now, Paul is in a sailboat on his way from Mackinac Island to Chicago or something. So it's gonna be quiet for a while, those emails coming from LSRI. Unless he brought his laptop and he's gonna do it from the boat, I don't know. Thank you. Come to our planning table. Thanks, Jeff.
All right, thank you. And again, way to go, folks. 6 locations all across the county. Good job. And also Katie Morrison, right, made a lot of that food, that amazing food spread that we had. She did most of that work.
Wow.
So just amazing, and thanks. And then we had a lot left over still. I gave some to the college students, and then I gave the rest to Jensen House. Okay, so moving through, I'm going to take, I have 3 things, and then we'll go down the list with others. July 24th, which is Thursday, at 1 is the community action meeting about Meals on Wheels. How many folks are planning to make? Excellent. Okay, good. That's 1 o'clock on Thursday. That is still an ongoing conversation. I don't know if you want to say that. You can talk to Dana Lalonde, the Marquette County Commissioner, and represents the county on the CAM board. So you can also talk to her during breakout. And the county commission meetings, we have talked about going to those, and the people who have been active, I don't think are here today. And there's a letter that's being developed to ask for a meeting with our elected representatives at all levels. Good.
The letter has been sent. 2 calls have been made. Oh,
The letter has been sent. It was sent last Wednesday. 2 calls have been made. They have not responded to our request for a meeting. They said they would begin to look at it harder after my call this afternoon.
And so nationally, Indivisible is making a call for Accountability August, because they're back home. August is summer recess for all levels of government, and maybe this is our turn to do something interesting about, finding our elusive Michigan First U.S. representative. See what we can come up with for that one. Maybe something interesting. Search and rescue. I don't know. We can find things. I missed it.
what state does he really live in?
What state does he really live in? Yeah, bring in our lobster tails and lobster and. So yes, so let's things to think about for us going forward, as well as meeting with our state representatives. Which the letters went to all 3. Went to sorry.
Ed and
Senator McBroom and Representative Butler. All right. And then one quick update. There was a call put out on the Marquette County Community of Women, actually, which has 8,000 people on it, Facebook group, that there was this big housing meeting at Marquette Township last Tuesday. So I went, and Zeke also was there. There's 48 units of housing being proposed behind the Goodwill in the woods back there between 492 and the Goodwill store. 13 of which are being set aside for people who earn between $36,000 and $74,000. So really affordable for the first time. It did not move forward. And let's talk about that in a breakout group, because I don't want to get into it. But it did not move forward, and it's been going on, and we're going to lose $1 million. Is another thing. State, we qualified for a state initiative grant, and in not moving that project forward, we're not going to get that money. And so I would like to talk more about housing. Is anyone here, and let us start now as time allows, the Irons and Techs? No. I don't think anyone's here from Crystal Falls. They had a good showing. They had their Good Trouble event on Saturday. I saw stuff on Facebook as well. We the People is having a meeting,
If you got it, you got it.
yeah, it's having a meeting tomorrow, but tell me the time again.
6:30.
6:30.
No, I'm sorry, 6 p.m., 6 to 7:30, that's correct.
Yeah, thank you. 6 to 7:30, We the People is meeting online, but also in person. And they're working on MarkTran and the transit question and how we can get better transit. So maybe see Zeke, because clearly he knows more than I do, about that one too. Students are here. We're doing ballot proposals. Delta County also had a Good Trouble event. It went really well. Lydia is out catching fish, because that's her job. She's not here. The Reproductive Health Resources Clinic had an event earlier today.
Tonight, 6:30.
Oh, okay. And that's it. Okay, so there we go. Any other announcements for the group? Did anyone go to, sorry, yeah.
I just had a quick question.
Sure.
I've been seeing a lot of stuff online about a nationwide protest August 2nd. Have you been anything in regards to that? The 50501 movement.
I haven't seen it, I'll be honest. Anyone else seen it?
Yeah.
5051 is asking for a nationwide thing of race information on Facebook. August 2nd.
I didn't hear that, to be honest. Sorry,
Rage
Martha.
against the machine. The regime.
5051 is asking for a nationwide protest on the first Saturday, which is the 7th or the 3rd?
August 2nd.
7th, called Rage Against the Regime.
All right, put your dancing shoes on.
And as for whether we're doing it, I think it's the first time it's been brought up here.
Did anyone attend the, sorry, go ahead. But, yeah. Oh, t-shirt update. Thank you.
Thank you. We have 288 t-shirts back in the bank, so the t-shirts are for sale again, and not that they were suspended. I think we ran it down to about 7. So there's lots of material on the tables and at the information table. Get the word out. We really want to see these shirts spread across the whole UP. So if you've got friends in other parts of the UP, and the shirts work for anything. Also, there's material on all of the tables and at the information table on 1 Million Rising. It's got a lot of partners, including Indivisible, many other partners. I'll just give you a quick brief. It's a national effort to train 1 million people in the strategic logic and practice of non-cooperation, as well as the basics of community organizing and campaign design. This is how we build people power that can't be ignored, and you're invited to join us and lead. The first training was a video training last Wednesday. It was great. There are going to be 2 more trainings that if you're interested at all, this is going to involve small groups, small community gatherings of 10 to 15 people where we train each other on how to organize and get the groundwork and the mobilization started for what we hope will be a national strike in 2026, sometime in the fall. But the work really needs to start now. So I will be here, and I can tell you a little bit I know about it. I volunteered and when I have a gathering. I'm not sure where or when it's going to be, but I'm glad to share little I know about it here at this thing afterwards. Yeah, you can watch that first training again, and there's instructions on how to do that on these sheets. That's it. Thanks.
Anyone else? All right, so we have a breakout group with Brad on the 1 Million Rising and t-shirts. We have the breakouts with the ballot initiatives with Joe and Calvin over there. And we have Zeke, who is talking about working on MarkTran and also probably in support of the ballot initiatives as well. And pop-up conversations about the pop-up protests, that we want to continue to be visible, that we're standing up against the tyranny. And Tina.
I will not be here next Tuesday. I'll be downstate seeking medical care. So I need somebody to play hostess, and I need 2 volunteers to bring treats. So if you're interested in either of those options, come see me and feel free to.
And I think that means you need to be here at 6:30, 6:15. Yeah. Great. All right, and I'm available as well to talk about money and politics. I got stories, and housing, and all of the things. Yeah.
Last thing, I didn't get a chance last time, so I'm gonna make sure I say it this time. I unfortunately am not gonna be able to run the live stream next week. I have a couple students that are in the way. So if anyone has a laptop and either wants to borrow a video camera from someone or has a video camera hooked up, I can show you what I use to live stream. It's actually surprisingly easy as long as your laptop can run a video for a few hours. Yeah.
I know Jen has brought this up too about coming to county commission meetings. I welcome people to attend. I know it interferes with this meeting as well. It meets at 6 twice a month, first Tuesday of the month, last Tuesday of the month. And I know she has also said it, but I'm going to say it too. I would love to see you at our meetings. Even if you don't make public comment, if you're just coming there and listening, it makes a difference. Even not at my county commission meeting, it can be at your township meeting, your city meeting, your planning meeting, anything. And I know it's asking a lot of people these days because your time is spread out everywhere, but it really makes a difference. When I got involved in the city of Nagani, I didn't just decide one day to run for office. I actually attended their meetings for a full year. And, it might be kind of boring for some, but if you start paying attention, it's kind of really interesting. It's an amazing puzzle how our community fits together. So I'm really encouraging you to attend, ask friends to go, encourage others to go. It would really be great to see people there. It helps with accountability. It helps for your elected officials, nonpartisan and partisan, to see people there listening. It makes a huge difference because local's where it's at.
All right, thanks everybody.